Happy Sunday. I hope everyone has had a great weekend so far. I appreciate you guys coming back every Sunday to spend a little bit of time with me. Um, I promise I won't hold you long. Just going to share some information about FHA appraisers, appraisals, shall I say. Oftentimes people confuse appraisals and inspections, and especially when it comes to FHA, I can see how people can confuse those. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. You may see me looking down because I do have quite a bit of notes, contrary to what you may believe. I don't know everything, and I certainly don't have it all memorized in my head, but I'm going to share some information with you. I will get started at about 2 minutes just to give people the opportunity to hop on. So it's already 1:54. So we're on the countdown because at 2 minutes, I'll start sharing information. And it is 2 minutes. So today, what are FHA appraisers looking for? So first, let me just talk about FHA and what that means. So a lot of people purchase homes using an FHA loan. An FHA loan is a government-backed loan. And most people go FHA for a couple reasons. One, they have more lenient credit guidelines. So specifically, you don't have to have as far as a credit score. So a lower credit score, you can get approved. Also, they will allow you to have a higher debt to income ratio. And with an FHA loan, typically your down payment is 3.5%. So low down payment, you can get approved with a lower credit score. And there's some leniency with the debt to income ratio percentage. So that's why a lot of times you have people who choose to go FHA versus conventional. And like I said, these loans are backed by the federal government. So in the event that someone defaults, the federal government will take over that loan. So HUD, which is Housing and Urban Development, will step in and take over that loan. So what are FHA appraisers looking for? It's really three things. They're wanting to make sure that the home is safe, secure, and that it's worth the purchase price. And FHA loans were put in place to help people, lower income, so low to moderate income people be able to achieve the goal or the dream of home ownership. So that's what these loans were actually created for. So the appraisal process is a little different than conventional because the thought process is if these loans are geared toward lower to moderate income families, you want to be sure that they are purchasing a home that is, that doesn't have any glaring, maintenance issues, things like that, because you don't want the person to get into a property and then they've got repair issues that they don't have the money to address. And now the dream has become a nightmare or a money pit. So that's why those appraisals look a little different than conventional. So knowing some of the things that FHA appraisers look for will help you as you are on your home ownership journey out looking at homes. It will help you know what to look for. If you're someone that is selling a home, it will help you know things that you may want to go ahead and address before you put your home on the market so that it doesn't come up as an issue later. Because when the appraiser goes out, they have the right basically to put the transaction on hold until these things are addressed. So if they go out and they see some of the things that I'm going to share with you, they write that up in the appraisal report, and pretty much those things have to be corrected before they will allow the contract to go to the closing table. And typically the appraiser is going to go back out and inspect it to make sure that it has been done and that it's been completed, properly. So protecting the buyer. In a few cases, they may let you submit a picture of the completed work, but most of the time, the appraiser is going to go back out and make sure that the work has been completed and that it's been completed properly. So now let's get into a few things. I mean, there are a list of things that the appraiser looks for. I'm just going to talk about a few of those today. So one of the things that they're looking for is a dry and ventilated crawl space and basement. So again, like I said, as a seller, these are things you want to think about as well. As a seller, you want to make sure that your crawl space is accessible, that the appraiser can at least get, his head and shoulders in well enough to be able to see inside the crawl space. So what are they looking for? The crawl space must be free of debris and have good airflow and no pooled water. So you think about it, if there's water that's pooling on the soil or sitting, that softens the dirt, which is really what the house is sitting on, which is something that could cause a foundation problem later on. So dry, clean crawl space. Now, as far as the basement, they're also looking for any signs of moisture, dampness, any type of structural issues that, could pose a health risk. Because we know when we see moisture, and if it's there long term, that could then become an issue with mold. So they're looking for nothing that's going to compromise the integrity of the house or pose a health risk to the people that are living in the home. Also, with the basement, if there's a sump pump, they typically are going to test it and make sure that it is working properly. All right, so the next one, sufficient drainage and grading. So this is outside. They want to be sure that, and again, we're talking about water, so they want to make sure that when it's raining, that the property is landscaped, that the water is draining away from the house, not draining back toward the house. Because you think about, that water flowing, if it's flowing back toward the house, that's going to cause eventually the dirt to erode, which could potentially cause the foundation to shift. So we see a theme here with water and keeping it away from the home. So they're going to look to make sure that there's effective drainage measures being taken to keep water away from the home. So they're looking for gutters. They're looking at the downspouts. They're looking at how, like I said, the landscape is graded to make sure that, again, the water is going away from the house and not back toward the house. That's one of the things I also tell my buyers. If you're under contract on a home and it's raining, you might not want to go out in the rain, but that's a good day to go out and look to see how's the water, flowing at the house. Not that you're an appraiser or an inspector, but I mean, you can see. So proper grading and also making sure that water is directed, when it comes the roof and you've got the gutters and the water is coming down the gutters, how is that water landing? So sometimes the fix may be something as simple as just putting an extension on the gutter so that when the water comes down, it's not stopping right there at the base of the gutter, which might be right, near the house. So sometimes it's just as simple as adding an extension to the gutter so that the water is away from the house. All right, so number 3, adequate heating and cooling. So HUD requires adequate heating in any area of the house that is considered a living space. So if it's what we call a habitable room, or we're counting it as living space, there has to be heat in the house. So sometimes people may have basements, but they don't have, they didn't connect heat and air down there. So technically that's not really considered living space. So it's something that we don't count in the square footage of a home. So if you've got a home that has a what's the word I'm looking for? It's like space heaters. A space heater is typically not going to be counted as adequate heating. And even though air conditioning is not, or central air is not a requirement, if the home has central air, HUD does require, or FHA does require, that it be working. So that's something that they would want to be fixed if they go out and find that the air conditioning is not working. That's going to be an issue. Now, heating is a requirement. There are some places that have a little bit of an exception, not here in Georgia, but like Hawaii and Florida, because those are places that are typically warm year round. They don't have the same requirement as far as heating. But here in Georgia, you have to have heating in a home in order for it to pass an FHA appraisal. Now, the next one is more of a safety thing. So smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are required in the sleeping areas. And it's funny because I just had a closing back in August, and all the bedrooms in the home were upstairs, and there were no smoke or carbon monoxide detectors. I don't know if the people had removed them, but anyway, that was one of the things that we had the seller install. So definitely they're going to look for smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors in the sleeping area. It can be, like if all the bedrooms are right there together, it can be just one in the hallway. It doesn't have to be in the bedroom. However, if there's like a home that has a wood burning fireplace in one of the bedrooms, then the carbon monoxide detector does have to be installed in the bedroom. The last one that I'm going to talk about is hand railing. So this could be going down basement steps. It could be coming up steps, coming into the front of the home, or going downstairs at the back of the home, but they are going to require handrails be installed for decks and porches if it's more than a 1 foot drop off, or anything that has 3 or more steps. Handrails will need to be installed. And that's one that I actually had come up back in, it might have been April or May. And this actually was a conventional loan that we got dinged on the appraisal for. And I was surprised for conventional, because if it had been FHA, I would have off the rip said that the seller, we need that address. But it was conventional, and they don't typically ding for that, but it was steps coming from the basement. So we had to have a handrail put up. So those are 5 things that you can look for. And just one thing that I'll tell you with FHA, if you're looking at a property and you see any type of wood rot around the trim, usually like the door jamb, if you see that, if you see wood rot around the windows, FHA is really big on wood rot, because typically it's because water is coming in some way, somehow. So you can expect that they are going to want that to be addressed. Just something else, just from my personal experience, is the deck. When there's a deck, if it hasn't been stained and maintained well, and the railing is loose, that is something that is usually going to come up. So again, this will help you when you're looking. And so now that you know a few things to look for, and it will help you in structuring an offer. And oftentimes you'll get sellers that are well aware, and they'll fix those things. And you have some, like I had one recently. We talked about the handrail because there wasn't a handrail coming up the front steps. And so I requested it in the inspection when we were negotiating the inspection items, and the seller didn't want to fix it. And I said, well, it's going to come up when we get the appraisal. And so the seller said, well, I tell you what, let's wait till the appraiser comes out. And if it's written up on the appraisal report, then I'll fix it. And so we agreed to that. And that's exactly what happened. When it got written up on the appraisal, in order for us to close, it had to be done. So she did it. But I hope that this has been helpful. If you've got questions about anything that I've shared or talked about regarding the FHA appraisal, you can put your questions in the comments and I will absolutely respond. If you want additional information just about the home buying process or preparing your home to sell, all of my contact information, well, it's streaming across the screen right now. So you've got my email address and my phone number, but I'll also make sure that it's in the description. So I help people just like you relocate to the Atlanta metro area every day. I help people buy and sell real estate every day. So please, if you got questions, looking for a great agent, give me a call. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next Sunday.